Welcome to the Bourbon Van. I'm Phil.
I'm Julie.
And today we are drinking Four Roses Small Batch Select Bourbon. So this is a highly anticipated bottle for us. It seemed like everybody got it before us. And in the state of Oregon, we finally got it about a month ago. And we scooped it up immediately because we're Four Roses fans and we generally like the things that they make. And we think that they're a good value. And this bottle in particular was hyped way up. It was all over social media. Everybody was talking about what a great bottle it was and how good it was. And so we've been very excited to get our hands on it. As you can see, we've done a little bit of damage to it already, and we decided it was time because we haven't really done any Four Roses reviews or anything like that on this channel, at least not in a long time. It's time for us to review this bottle.
So Four Roses as a distillery has a lot going on.
They have 2 mash bills. They have 5 yeast strains. They have a lot, exactly what she said. They have a lot going on. And so from those 2 mash bills, 5 yeast strains, there's effectively 10 recipes. And Small Batch Select pulls from 6 of those recipes to blend into this particular whiskey. So right off the bat, you're thinking this is going to have a lot of flavor in it.
So they make this whiskey the same way you make your smoothies. Just kind of chuck it all in.
Whatever's sitting around, throw it in. Something tells me that there's a little more science behind their whiskey. This whiskey is non-chill filtered. Like we said, crafted from 6 unique bourbons right there on the label. It is 104 proof for a 750 milliliter bottle. This one sells for $65, and it is the first permanent line extension to Four Roses for the last 12 years. So it's been a long time since they added something new. So there are a lot of bottles available that are really good in that $65 price range. So we're expecting a lot from this bottle. It's been open for about 4 weeks now. We wanted to make sure that it had time to open up, and obviously we've been sipping on it, so we do have some thoughts on it. We'll talk value, we'll talk comparable bottles, but let's get to the tasting.
So it has kind of a classic bourbon Four Roses type of nose to it.
Yeah, Four Roses sort of known for classic bourbon aroma and flavors. No big difference here.
I'm getting just a hint of vanilla, a little bit of oak, maybe like an oak char.
I would agree with that. Yeah, it's just a little bit smoky.
Yeah.
A little bit of char there. It is sweet. There's some spice for sure, and there's an ethanol there. It smells like it's going to be pretty strong. Again, 104 proof, so we don't expect this to be overly hot. What I get here is sort of a caramely, that burnt quality sort of comes through. I'm thinking like creme brulee with maybe like a blackberry sitting in the middle of it. It's not overly sweet. It strikes me as being pretty well balanced.
It's just a tad bit perfumey, almost a little bit floral there.
I'd agree with that.
I don't think there's a lot of floral on the nose. I think it's just that familiar Four Roses.
Yeah, and it smells better than my smoothies.
All right, let's get into it.
Let's get to it.
Cheers. So the first thing I noticed, and I've noticed it from the first time we opened that bottle till now, is that it drinks a lot warmer than the 104 proof point. I like it.
Yeah.
It just isn't noticeable because you think at 104, it's just going to have a little kick, and it does drink a little bit warmer. But on this first sip, there was a really nice oak, some good cinnamon, like baking spices.
A lot of spice.
Yeah.
Very spicy whiskey. Yeah. That's more than anything else what I get on this whiskey. I get a little bit of leather with that. There's an earthy quality here that's pretty nice. Again, it's not overly sweet. There's vanilla, there's oak, there's cinnamon. The mouthfeel, I would say, is a little thin. It's not, I wouldn't even call it medium, quite honestly. This one is a little bit thin, so it tends to get everywhere on your palate. And when it's carrying that much cinnamon, that much spice, it's just a rush of saliva into the mouth.
Yeah. And I'm not one that really focuses on the finish. But
Not usually.
Not usually. But this one is so unique to me because it's a little bit dry, a little bit peppery. Definitely that leather you were talking about.
There's a ton of black pepper here.
Yeah. And so none of the baking sweetness, that oak really comes through in the finish. It's really there on the palate, and then that finish is just kind of that dry, leathery, peppery warmth.
Yeah, there's vanilla that sort of hangs around underneath.
Yeah.
but that black pepper, that drying, oaky, leathery, really more leather than oak, that dryness and the pepper, that's what I get on the finish here. That's what hangs around. It does stick around for a while too. It's medium to long length finish, but it's black pepper for me. So if you like that black pepper on your whiskey, I think you'll like this a lot.
So what I find interesting about this is that the nose, the palate, and the finish are all really different. I mean, a lot of times I'll have a drink and everything's pretty consistent from start to finish. I mean, you'll pick up additional flavors along the way or something that you weren't expecting. And in this, it's like the nose and the palate do meld pretty good, but the palate is definitely like the most flavorful part of this drink.
Right.
And then that finish is just, it's almost like a 180, you know, it goes into that dry, peppery zone.
Yeah, the creme brulee, the blackberry, the sort of fruitiness that you get up front, on the finish, it's gone.
Yeah.
And even on the palate, I didn't recognize it at all on the palate. So this one, like you said, a little inconsistent from start to finish. The mouthfeel, it starts off creamy and goes real thin, and the finish does last. It lingers a little bit, but just a little bit of inconsistency here.
Yeah, I like that creamy note because I just took another sip, and I know it's not really one of their flavors, but it did taste a little bit almost like peanut buttery or like a peanut butter cup, something like that, just because I think it's just that creaminess that you're talking about that I'm getting.
Yeah, that leather, I think, sometimes presents a little peanut buttery in this whiskey. So, a little dry, and a little inconsistent from a flavor profile standpoint, but that's not to say that it's not good and it's not enjoyable.
Right.
It might sound like we're not enjoying this whiskey. Again, we've only had it for a little while. We've been getting into it, so we do enjoy this whiskey, absolutely. It's well balanced. It is spicy. It is flavorful. It has its moments of sweetness. It has its moments of dryness, and it's Four Roses. It tastes like Four Roses whiskey, and if you like Four Roses and if you like spicy whiskey, I really think that this is a great whiskey for you.
Yeah. So I think it's time we talk value.
Absolutely. Because $65, it is so tough, especially when you consider that Four Roses single barrel sells for $15 less. We are huge fans of the single barrel, so even though this bottle blends several yeast strains and might offer better overall consistency and experience, I think that $15 matters. Small Batch Select doesn't separate itself enough, in my opinion. The deeper we get into our whiskey journey, the more we seek value from our bottles, and I think we find better value for our personal preferences in the single barrel bottle. If you love Four Roses, you'll probably enjoy this bourbon. In our opinion, the single barrel is a better value, and that's the one that you're going to find on our shelf.
Yeah, and at that $65 price point, I think I have 3 of those yellow labels for the same price. You know how I love that yellow label.
I wasn't even going to include yellow label in this discussion, but you're absolutely right. That's another great Four Roses bottle. That is a terrific value. Most of them seem to be. This one at $65 though, let's talk comparable bottles because it has some stiff competition. So for $60, you can have Old Forester 1920, 115 proof, one of our all-time favorite bottles. We love that one. Also in that price range, MGP's Belle Meade Reserve 108.3. How good is that bottle? That bottle's delicious.
So good.
Absolutely. Also for that same $65 price point, Jack Daniel's single barrel, barrel proof Tennessee whiskey. Yeah, it's a totally different type of whiskey, but...
And the proof point,
proof point's way higher, yeah. But in terms of a value buy at that $65 price point, and we find that one for $55 sometimes too, so really hard to compare them, but hard not to compare them, kind of honestly. So those other bottles, maybe they're a little bit different class, but when you're talking about this price point, you're expecting something amazing. You want it to be flavorful, hit your palate perfectly, and you want it to be a great value for that price. Those other bottles, we think they're amazing. They hit our palates perfectly. As much as we do like this whiskey, and we really do, and we really like Four Roses, for us, this is probably a one and done. I think that we're going to keep, obviously, Four Roses single barrel on the shelf, obviously Four Roses yellow label. We've never been the biggest small batch fans, but this small batch select, there's so many great ones in that class. Yeah. I think this is a one and done.
And it looks really nice on the shelf.
It looks great with the lights hitting it. Beautiful. So let us know either how right we are or how wrong we are on this bottle. Four Roses small batch select. Have you had it? What do you think of it? And if it's not your favorite bottle, what is your favorite Four Roses bottle? What else are you buying at that $65 price point? Like, comment, subscribe, check us out on Instagram at The Bourbon Van, join us on Patreon, and from wherever we are
to wherever you are,
cheers.
Cheers.